Hi, I'm Kristen Noel, founder of The Intuitive Divorce, and I'm here with my beautiful friend and team member, amazingly skilled and heart centered coach Joe Young, with some after class musings. Let's just say that this class was a doozy because holidays and divorce don't normally play well together. Life doesn't feel the same right now, neither will your holidays. And if you insist on maintaining that level of expectation, you are not setting yourself up well. That's why we're popping in here today. We're going to help you shift that old narrative and dive into some of the biggest triggers mamas navigating divorce face. And
Yeah, big class.
that was a big class. Well, I mean, we called it down to six of probably the most pressing, the most common. The first one that we discussed yesterday is what will happen if I don't show up as Martha Stewart this year, meeting all the expectations of others, being the perfect hostess, creating the perfect table setting, meal, decorations, accepting every party invitation, and overindulging everyone in gifts? What if I just can't do it all this year? And by the way, you can't. So this is a good place to start, right?
Yes, isn't it interesting that our culture sets us up with these huge expectations? All the Hallmark movies, all the decorations, all the things, all the music playing, and it sets us up poorly for what most people's reality is.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you're navigating divorce or contemplating divorce or in a rocky relationship that you're not quite sure what to do with. There's a lot playing in. And when our expectations are super high, it can really set us up for some big disappointments.
And the bottom line is divorce or no divorce. It's amazing how we assume the role. We just get in line and assume the role, and this is the way it is. And obviously, there are traditions, there are things we love, there are things that we don't love, but we feel like we have to do them. This is what we always eat. This is the way we always do it. This is who always comes. This is what we always fight about, And it's really that self agency piece that's missing. And it's particularly important when you're navigating something like divorce. And, you really need to find ways to protect yourself and to really consciously take self agency, take agency over self. What can I show up for? What can't I show up for? What do I want to show up for? Right?
Yeah, that to me is one of the biggest pieces because I feel like, to your point, we fall right back into what we've always done or what was modeled for us or what
Mm-hmm.
we think is supposed to be the perfect holiday. And at the end of the day, we spend very little time thinking about, wait a minute, what do I actually want to do this holiday? What do I want to feel this holiday? And, I'm a big vision person. So if we can spend the time to just take a few minutes and really check in and go, what do I want to feel? And what is realistic? What do I need to say no to? Because when we say no to some things, we get to say yes to some new things, which is really beautiful. And kind of give ourselves a break and realize that we're human and what we want and care about is important, not what it's always been.
Mm-hmm. Again, divorce or no divorce, I think this is some medicine for mamas because can you give yourself permission to not be perfect? Can you give yourself permission to have wants and needs and to be able to convey them? And because you do that does not mean the holidays are going to go down the tubes. It's
That's
actually
right.
the opposite, right?
Yeah. I was talking to a friend this week who she lives in Canada. And so they've already had Canadian Thanksgiving. And she said, you know what? I'm in the middle of cooking. I've got a house full of people and my stove gave out. She's like, I couldn't
Yeah,
cook
well, that's
anymore.
exactly what it goes. I mean,
Right. And so it is a life skill to go, okay, this is what's happening. I can decide to get really upset about it and focus on all the things that are going wrong and all the chaos and how many people are going to be disappointed and all of that. Or I have an opportunity here to go, all right, we're going to make a pivot. That's what we're going to do because I'm committed to joy and playfulness and peace this holiday season. And so even when things go sideways, because they always will, it's life, right? In some capacity, or we're going to get our obnoxious uncle that comes in that always tends to do the things that, that trigger us or whatever the case is. Those things are going to happen. So how can you set yourself up well to just go, let it,
Right.
because ultimately what matters is your experience of it, right?
And also just getting clear about what I can do this year.
Yeah.
So for the mamas that are navigating divorce, what can you do? What's important to you? What do you want to do? What can you bring joy to? And where can you ask for help? Where can you ask for help? Got to practice that one, right? It's
Yeah.
like, so it's really,
That's big.
yeah, it's big. It's big. The best place to start is considering your needs, and saying, okay, I'm in a position, my life is going to look very different in a year. But right now, I have to just deal with what's in front of me. What can I show up for? Because for a lot of the mamas, we were talking about this in class, a lot of the mamas are at their wits' end, don't want to go to their in-laws, don't want to have these conversations, don't want to this, and this, but they have little kids. So where can you show up so that you can experience some of that joy? Hold on to some of that joy, but you don't have to do it all. So I think
Right.
that was the number one. So let's move on to number two, because we got six. We got six things we want to
Okay.
talk about.
Let's roll.
So number two, how will I survive splitting the holiday for the first time? Spending the day without my kids or my ex? Or if you're still under the same roof in the early stages of divorce, how will I tolerate my spouse, put on a happy face for others, and pretend everything is business as usual?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It is a big one.
That's a biggie.
Yeah. And it's a lot to negotiate. But I think the first part of it is just recognizing that things may be different this year. And it's temporary. It's what we try to instill really strongly yesterday in our class was this is a temporary situation. And so you're not writing the future. You're simply stepping into this year and going, things may be different and it might feel uncomfortable. But there's
Mhm.
so many beautiful things that I can choose to focus on rather than the things I'm missing out on. Because the reality is, how we think about things creates our experience of it.
Mhm.
So if I can sit back and go, all right, maybe I don't have my kids this year, right? What gift can I give myself this year? How can I treat myself really well in their absence so that when they show back up, I'm a better mama. I'm a more fulfilled mama. I'm a rested mama, right? And so you can spend the time focusing on what you're missing out on or what's different, or you can spend the time focusing on how do I make this year the best that it can be, show up for myself differently, and create the best holiday that I can for me for a
Mhm.
change.
Mhm. Okay, that was just a mic drop answer because I have nothing to add to that. You like basically covered everything. No, it's so true. I mean, splitting holidays with your children and your ex is just a harsh reality of divorce. And I know that's like, that could like take your breath away when you're thinking of like, I'm not going to be with them when they open their presents. And it's like, this is where you lean in. And it's like, yeah, you're going to feel those feelings. And that is a reality. But it's like, okay, now what? Because you're getting a divorce for a reason. And not that I want to like drudge up the past too much, but it's like, think about all of the other holidays that you sort of suffered through because you were suffocating in this marriage. You're here for a reason. So you're going to find your way through this. You're going to navigate this. You're going to create new traditions. The story remains unwritten. The next chapters are unwritten. You're writing them right now with present day choices, right?
Yeah.
So the best thing you can do, the best thing that you highlighted so beautifully was literally to take care of yourself in this moment so that when they come back to you, you are just in the best condition you can possibly be in. And
Yeah.
also, how do you prepare yourself? How do you prepare them before they leave? What do you do after they come back? That doesn't mean it zaps the fun out of everything. So it is sort of the birth of new traditions and new you.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to hit on this topic, Kristen, that is so important is for those that are still under the same roof. They're still going through the motions, but the inside isn't what they wish for, right? The feelings aren't there. And, we had a great discussion around our reality, our experience of things comes from who we are. And a piece of that is what we look for. So if you're having to be in the same household in a situation that makes you uncomfortable, first of all, boundaries are going to be your best friend. This is what I'm available for. This is what I'm not available for, both for yourself and with whoever you're around who is willing to participate and be a member of that, right? To be a partner in that, rather.
And even if they're not,
Um,
you're going to keep reminding them.
yeah, to say, you know what, I'm not available for that, or I'm not available to be in this conversation, or you simply get up and walk away. So boundaries are going to be your best friend. That's first thing. The second thing is, we were talking to a mama who wanted to go to her ex's family's house because it meant so much to her kids and she enjoyed so much seeing the joy in her kids. And it was like, then that's what you focus on.
Well,
If
wait a
you're
minute.
there,
You're not giving yourself
okay.
credit there. You're not giving yourself credit because actually the mama was like having a rant about how much she hated her in-laws and didn't want to go there. And you were like, okay, okay, I hear you. What can we do? And this was non-judgmental. This was just trying to workshop it with her. And you got her to the place where she answered it herself, but she realized how I perceive it, how I'm going to view this experience is what the experience is going to be. You really workshop that with her, and that was huge. And it was so important for everyone else in the class to witness. And that was that she came to the conclusion that, oh, I really love seeing my little girls experience the joy of Christmas with their grandparents. And she was able to sort of prioritize it. Now, that's not bypassing, but you really helped her get to that place as opposed to really digging her heels into the suffering. And the way you were able to do that with her is by reminding her that she does have agency over this, that she could have a conversation prior with her husband about what we're going to talk about, what we're not going to talk about, or set some boundaries. And if my boundaries are being violated, I'm going to go for a walk. And again, we were in class, we were saying, listen, we can't tell you you should go to your in-laws or not go to your in-laws. We are where we are, and there's no judgment. Whatever you decide is going to be the right decision. But it's like, how are you setting yourself up for the suffering or not?
And
Right?
when you get to the in laws, what are you choosing to focus on? And that's the biggest
Mm-hmm.
piece. When I show up, yeah, they might be just as dysfunctional as they've always been, likely will be if they're not doing any work. But at the end of the day, what matters is if you show up, what are you choosing to focus on? You're going to focus on that dysfunction. You're going to focus on the joy that's in your little girl's eyes that they're
Mm-hmm.
getting to be there with their cousins and their family. And again, I love the fact that you point out there's no right or wrong answer in there. And we
Mm-hmm.
didn't even get to the conclusion whether this mama would go or not go because it's not what's important ultimately.
Right.
What's important ultimately is that she gets to make an informed, empowered choice about it.
Mm-hmm. It kind of rolls into everything we've been talking about. What matters most is the condition that you are in and how you take care of yourself. Because when you are in a grounded space, you can really convey very consciously and very clearly what your boundaries are and what you need. And, I mean, we all have families and we all know how triggering they can be. And we all know how we have to remind them of our boundaries and vice versa. But when we're in a frazzled place where we're easily triggered, that's where things go south. So
Yeah.
moving right along. So
Moving
this was
right along.
moving right along. So, okay, number 3. What do I do if I just want to hide under the covers, not face people, and just skip over the holidays this year? How do I navigate feeling uncomfortable with this messy middle where nothing feels quite the same?
Yeah.
Ooh, another biggie.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting because I think, first off, the biggest piece of advice that we give to our mamas all the time is have some grace with yourself. It's called the messy middle for a reason. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to feel comfortable. And I think the more you just expect the uncomfortable and normalize that it's going to feel uncomfortable, we just need to start to get used to feeling a little uncomfortable. So,
You know what I just
um,
don't you think it's like a lot of times, and sorry to interrupt you, but a
oh
lot of
no, go
times
ahead.
it's about that discomfort because I'm feeling and I have not allowed myself to feel and I can no longer stuff this down and I can't contain it. So that's why it's so uncomfortable. And I think, just building on what you said, it's this like giving yourself the grace to know it's temporary. Keep
Yes.
going, keep feeling, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you're lying under those covers and you don't want to get up, the biggest thing, and we said it right at the top of our class yesterday, was what's the first thing you do? Give yourself some nervous system love. Have grace with yourself. Get under those covers and have a little conversation with yourself. Remind yourself that you're safe and you're loved and you're showing up for yourself. And it's okay that it's uncomfortable. Breathe, 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 breathe. Take
Mhm.
some deep breaths. Let go of the anxiety that you're feeling and remember why you're there and why you're showing up. And then you get to choose to do it differently.
And the bottom line is that there's a lot between point A, which is hiding under the covers. I can totally understand that. I can relate to that. And I remember it well.
Mhm.
Hiding under the covers, or point B, pasting on a happy face and acting like nothing is happening. There's a whole world that happens in between. And it's in that in between, again, figuring out what can I show up for? What will feel good? What parts of this holiday do I love? It's not cut and dry. It's not black and white, right?
Yeah.
Get into the
And
gray. Get into
exactly
the
what we said last time. And
right.
focus on the things that are going to bring you that feeling that you're looking for.
And then ask yourself, who's setting up this expectation anyway? We'll leave you with that one. Okay.
We'll
Number
leave you with
four.
that one.
Number four. I think you're going to love number four. How do I avoid potential triggering conversations over the dinner table? Opinions of others about my divorce and life, what others think I should be doing or not doing. Oh, and that political presidential election.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that, the whole world could use a listen about because this is so prevalent in so many families today. And it's unfortunate. And at the same time, there's some real opportunities within this to get clear about what it is that you are available for. It
Mhm.
all comes back to boundaries again, really. What are you
That's why I was like,
available
you're going to
for?
love this. I had Joe's like, I
Yeah.
wrote in hot pink marker, boundaries with an exclamation point. This is our boundary badass, our resident boundary badass.
Yeah, you let people know what you're available for and not available for. And guess what? It's okay to say, you know what? I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year. I really want to invite you, family, to come and be a part of, but I just want to let you know there's certain topics that are off the table for this holiday. That's okay. In fact, it's important if
Mhm.
it sets everybody up well. And it might not mean that everyone comes because they might not be available for that. And that's okay too. But you've set the expectation. And if the conversation starts to go there, you can just simply remind, not for today. Not for today. Today, we're going to focus on some other
So
things,
get back on
not
course.
shaming or
Back on
yelling
course.
or screaming. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
You just set the boundaries ahead of time as best you can.
and we were talking about that in class yesterday is also how you say something, and how you convey, boundaries. Everyone immediately hears boundaries and it's like, you need to do this and you can't do that. And immediately puts people on the defense. And it doesn't have to be that way because we can actually communicate our boundaries with tenderness. We can communicate and say, you know what? I just want to let you know I'm in a very tender place. And I would like to table my divorce discussions for the holiday, for this meal. And I'm inviting you to please honor this and not bring this up at the table, whether that's politics or whether that's my divorce or whether it's speaking in front of my kids, whatever it is. But I think when we approach a conversation just from our hearts,
Mm.
it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say, I'm kind of just holding on right now. So I need your help here. Will you take my hand and honor these boundaries?
Beautiful. And we should do a whole boundary talk at some point here. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, think about it this way because so many people think of boundaries, like you said, as putting up walls. I'm protecting myself, I'm putting up walls. And I just invite the listeners here to start to think of it a different way. Think of it as a door. How are you letting
Mm.
people in? How are you letting people in to what you have to say to your sacred space, to your energy, whatever it is? How are you going to let people in? And that's where we want guidelines, giving people the operating
I love
system of how
that.
to treat us.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. You've mentioned that before, and I forgot about that. I love that metaphor of thinking of doors instead of walls,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
huge. It's a
and
big
that
difference.
actually feels so much better for the nervous system. It feels as particularly for a mama who hasn't really been able to do this so much in the past, leaning into it just feels so daunting. And when you can say it that way and you can see it that way and you can embody it that way, it's like, oh yeah, I think I could do that. I could do
Yeah.
that. Moving right along. Number 5.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so good. How can I release the unrealistic expectations of what the holidays should look like and feel like? And who am I in that story? And I actually had cue the Hallmark Christmas movie. And we touched on this a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, should never be in our vocabulary. And I used it there purposefully. Should does not need to be in our vocabulary. It's a made up thing.
Mhm.
And so I often will say to clients, replace the should with choose. So
Mm.
rather than I should do X, Y, and Z, replace it with choose. I choose to do X, Y, and Z and see if it still holds true for you. It's all in semantics. It's all in language, but language is so important to our nervous system and to our thought process. And it takes us away and out of all the expectations and the victimhood of things and really brings it back to what it is, which is choice.
Mhm.
So the expectations, we can really, really do ourselves some favors by being very clear back to what we talked about in the very beginning about what is possible and what's going to feel good for you this year. And literally take a piece of paper, write the word should on it, and just put a big X mark on it. You know, we've all heard you shouldn't should on yourself,
Yeah, I love that.
which I love. Stop
That's
shitting
our
on yourself.
yeah, that's our
And
our post-it for the day, right?
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
love that. But that's really what the bottom line is on this one.
Yeah, that is so, so, so good. Okay, number 6. How will I ever be able to financially support or pay for an incredible holiday experience?
Yeah. I loved what you said in class yesterday. You said, what's really important is your presence, not presence. So I think that that's a really important thing to hang on to because let's face it, I think we've all felt the holiday hangover from overindulging and overgiving and overspending and overeating and over everything,
And
right?
over it all.
We're
Yeah.
over it all. Yes, by the end. And wouldn't it feel so much better to go, you know what? I want to look back on this holiday and know that I've set myself up really well, not with a loaded credit card, not with those 30 extra pounds that I didn't want, you know, whatever it is, not by overindulging in the wine and the cocktails and all the things that are going to make me feel really crappy anyway. You know, yes, celebrate, enjoy, have fun, but just remember that the reality is you're going to be faced with real life, right? You're going to be faced with real life once the holidays end, and you want to feel good about that too.
Yeah, we don't need that hangover, right? So there are 2 things that I want to talk about that pertain to this in particular, and they're 2 separate constructs. But number 1, also, I really want everyone to be aware of what they're assigning to the purchasing of gifts. Like, what's the meaning behind the why behind? Because even the most loving parents will try to one up each other. Are you trying to vie for your kids? Is this like a tug of war of the kid? You know, so get really conscious and know, really, really lean in and know that your kids just want you. Yeah, they might want, blah, 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 but how many toys do they need? What they really want is you. And building on that, we had the most incredible testimony basically yesterday from a mama that has just made leaps and bounds and like has literally crossed the bridge. And it demonstrated what it means to be living during divorce. So when I say living during divorce, we get to choose what life looks like when we are going through divorce. And obviously, it's a trigger fest. So there's so many things that can pull us down, so many things that can make us fearful, vulnerable, angry, whatever it is, and suffer. And then you feel like you can get into this place where you just feel like you're running around putting out fires. And what happens there is that you stop living. You just become a firefighter, and you're an unpaid firefighter. And you're not living. And the most beautiful story, which this is a whole other topic of discussion, what we should go into. This mama had a big mediation coming up on Monday, and she had gone through a really frustrating situation. It wasn't going well. The mediation sessions were 5 hours, and it just continues back and forth, and it really felt like it was getting nowhere. And you would think that the weekend before her final mediation, she might have been like down in the papers and studying and getting her strategy together and talking to her lawyer and everything. And she's like, hell with that. She decided to do something else very revolutionary. She had fun. She had fun with her kids, like silly, giddy, foolish fun, like pulling, like, dude, let's decorate the house. Let's pull this out. Let's dance. Like, I mean, it was this whole long thing that she shared in class. The importance of that is that, first of all, didn't she look like a completely transformed person?
Completely.
I mean, she looks like she has aged backwards 10 years, right? She looked like a little kid. She looked like a little kid yesterday in class, and it's contagious. It is contagious. So it's contagious if you're the mama and you're laughing and you're having fun and you're being silly. And guess what? That energy is contagious. And she had the best weekend with her kids. And without going into her whole story,
she was present for her kids.
Right.
That's what made the difference. She showed up and just spent time with them. They went outside. They played in leaves. To your point, they didn't go to Disney World. You know what I'm saying?
Anything. Yeah.
They just made being together fun.
Mm-hmm. That's also something to remember, because I know right now, until you're the end of your divorce, there are fiscal realities, and you don't really know what that's going to look like. So why not take that off your plate? Why not add another stressor and just say, you know what? There are some things I'm willing to do, and there are certain things I'm not going to do. And I know you probably can relate to this as well. It's like I've had many holidays where I've overindulged everything, from the gift giving, from the accepting all the invitations, and then you get to the other side and you're just depleted and drained.
I was going to say, how'd you feel after?
Yeah, depleted, drained, and like a big fat dummy. You know what I mean? Like why did I do that? There's something in between. There's something in between, and I'm going into my holidays in a very different way this year.
Me too.
And very consciously. And my gift giving isn't the same, and my accepting invitations isn't the same. Where I'm going, what I'm doing, and who I'm doing it with isn't the same, but it actually feels really, really good. And it's about getting clear. And what do I need this year? Maybe what I need this year is not what I'm going to need next year or want, but I have to pay attention to what I need this year. Yes. And the same is true for all our mamas. Just be where you're at and know that this is temporary. We don't know how we're going to feel in a year. We don't know where we're going to be. And we had somebody in class who was saying she is still living under the roof with her husband. And she's like, I'm going all out this year because I know it's my last Christmas. And in the previous classes, it was like, well, what's the motivation behind that? And yesterday, she finally really owned it. She's like, because I love Christmas. I love big. I love blow up things she's got on her life.
She actually said, I'm doing Christmas this year for me.
Right.
And it was like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What a shift. I think I literally said, who are you?
Yeah, you did. What's your name again?
Because she was so attached to the have tos. I have to do this and I have to do that. And I have to do this for my family. And and it was like, no, you don't. No, you don't. What are you choosing? And so yesterday for her to show up and go, I'm doing Christmas this year for me. Mm-hmm. It's a game changer.
Well, and again, it's going to go back to this notion of awareness and clarity. What do you want? What will feel good? Can you give yourself permission to that? And I want to leave this with a really important thing you also brought in for the mamas. You said there are three things that they need to do that will set themselves up well. And that was regulate, make it safe, and feel your feelings.
Yeah. And you know what that all boils down to? Take responsibility for yourself to clear the pathway so that you get to show up and enjoy. Because what matters to everybody else is that what matters to your kids, I'm going to reframe that. What matters to your children is that you are okay and that you are present.
Mm-hmm.
That is the truth. And everything else is a byproduct of that. So it is personal responsibility. Regulate, make it safe, remind yourself that you're okay. In this
Mm-hmm.
moment, you are okay, right? And then give yourself some love, show some grace for yourself, and choose how it is that you want to feel this holiday season.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Yeah, so
Amen.
good. So good. I'm sure we're going to have more discussions about this topic because it's a biggie. It's really a biggie. All right, we're going to sign off now. So, okay, mamas, that's it for today. And our hope is that you've gleaned a nugget or two that will help you recalibrate how you are going to navigate your holidays and show up for yourself. Get out in front of it all and set yourself up well. You know what? We're rooting for you. In the meantime, if you need more support, inspiration, and info, you can learn more about our work over at intuitivedivorce.com and make sure you're on a newsletter list, which you can join from the website. We send out lots of great info each week that will guide you through your divorce, dealing with your kids, your money, your emotions, and best yet, your healing. And if you're ready, you can also book a free strategy call with us. You don't have to do it alone, mamas.
No. And on that note, we are grateful for you. So thank you for showing up and taking the time to listen. That's the first step in taking care of you.
Absolutely. And so many blessings.
So many blessings.